How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. Today I have a story time of when this kid basically went crazy and went on a tantrum saying that he claimed that he ruled the world, man. He owns planet Earth. It was something else. And if you want to own planet Earth, all you got to do is subscribe to this channel with notifications on. Yeah, no joke. Make sure you turn on notifications. You won't see my videos otherwise. And also, if you leave a like on the video, I'll give you nothing, which is pretty generous. And with that being said, let's jump right into the story. So my friend told me the story of when he went to summer camp over 2 years ago, right? So at this summer camp, right, he didn't know anyone and he's being dropped off. And it was an overnight camp, so he was going to be there for 2 weeks. And right, so he was a little bit nervous, as a lot of people are. I know when I was dropped off for my first overnight camp, I actually went with a friend, but at the same time, even then, I was pretty nervous because you never really know, if it's just going to be a disastrous 2 weeks where you don't meet anyone, yada, yada, yada. Most of you guys understand. So while my friend was being driven over by his mom, he was basically expressing his fears. He was like, hey, I don't know if what if I don't like anyone there? What if no one wants to be friends with me? What if, these next 2 weeks I'm all alone? I need to go through this all by myself. And his mom basically said that, he's going to have a great time. He shouldn't worry about it. And that, these sleepaway camp type things are really good learning experiences. And that basically, she went through it as a child. She had the same thing. She was worried about meeting people as well. And it's just important to build character. And let me just say that the people or at least one person he was about to meet at this camp that he was going to attend would at least, I think, say build character is definitely a way to put it. Once you've experienced with this person, you will have a lot of character. In fact, you'll have enough character to pass around, probably. Give some to me, a little character to everyone who watches this video. I don't know. So he's in the car with his mom, and eventually they pull up. And as he's pulling up, he's looking out, and he sees all these other cars, and he sees big swarms of kids and their parents. And then he sees all these people starting to line up to go into this building. So when his mom and him get out of the car, they kind of look around and they see the building and the line, so they decide to hop into it. And the thing is, my friend looks around and he's kind of looking at all the people, and there's no really big groups of people. It really just looks like a bunch of kids and their parents kind of individually by themselves, which was kind of a relief because he was afraid that, all these kids came with friends and we're just going to stick with those friends. And he was the only person who went to the sleepaway camp that, didn't have any friends that he came with, and he was afraid these were going to be the worst 2 weeks of his life. So he was already feeling a little bit better. I mean, things kind of go downhill in a sense. So this was kind of some false hope in a way. Right, so he gets in line, and after waiting in line for a while, he eventually gets to this table. It's basically like the check-in table, right? So what happens there is he goes up to the table, he and his mom go up, they say, hey, how's it going? So excited to have you, etc. You know how they do in sleepaway camps. But anyways, right, so he goes up, he checks in, and they say, all right, well, you're in Group B. So Group B is going to meet over there in about 10 minutes, and this is the time when you say goodbye to your mom. I don't know about you guys, but this was always the part that got me at these things. But anyways, he says bye to his mom. His mom says, you're going to have a great time. Don't even worry about it. I'm looking around and I see so many other kids in the exact same situation as you. Don't worry about it. You're going to be just fine. So my friend is waiting there and his mom leaves. He's like, okay, here we go into the storm, right? So he's kind of the first one in his group there. So he's waiting there. And then eventually he sees another kid and his mom, and the guy at the desk points to where he is, which is where Group B is meeting. And he sees the kid, hug his mom goodbye, and the kid comes over. And this guy seems pretty normal. He's having a few conversations. He's talking about oh, why did you sign up for this camp? Where do you live? What do you do in your free time? And this guy seems pretty normal. So my friend was, feeling pretty good because he already met one guy who's kind of chill. So, he's like, okay, this is actually going to be a pretty decent experience. Or so he thought, right? So my friend and this guy were kind of just there. They're chilling, they're talking, just getting to know each other. When my friend notices another guy at the stand. So this other guy came with his mom, right? And, he kind of had a bit of an essence to him, a bit of an aura. I don't really know how to say it, but kind of the way, he was, I don't know, carrying himself, the way it looked like he was speaking. Like, they hadn't even interacted with him. This guy hadn't even said a thing to my friend, but my friend just automatically got a bad feeling. Obviously, he was very open because he was like, okay, I have a bad feeling, so what? Like, my gut reaction could be wrong. All I'm gonna say, guys, is like, if you have a gut reaction about something, it's not always gonna be right, but don't automatically, don't automatically say it's false, because we have a lot of instincts that, we've developed over thousands of years that just sometimes it's hard to explain, but sometimes you do just got to trust that. And in this case, my friend was very much right. So the kid comes over after saying goodbye to his mom, and he's just kind of like, what's up? He's like, sup? And like, really is just not interacting with them. And at first my friend, like, initially he was like, okay, this kid obviously like is shy and he's nervous. Like, he's like, kind of like, okay, dude, I've been there too. So he's like, okay, you know what? I'll actually, I'll kind of like, go above and beyond and try and hang out with this guy, do some activities, because he's obviously having a hard time. And this is kind of where I thought I was going to be. So it's kind of the right thing to just, go ahead and just like hang out with this guy, and he could be pretty chill, Turns out he should have listened to his gut. So eventually some more kids come over to the Group B section where my friend and the other guys were. And then after a little while, a counselor came over and was like, okay, this is everyone. I hope you guys had a little time to meet each other. And then he's like, okay, guys, so we're going to be heading back to the cabin for tonight, and I'll show you guys your place, and we'll be getting dinner soon. But in the meantime, grab your stuff, and we'll be heading over. So they head over to the cabin. There's a little bit more small talk that's happening. But basically, right, they head over. And the cabin, man, it's not a bad cabin for, like, wilderness camps. But it's not obviously, the Four Seasons luxury hotel accommodations, man. It's a cabin in a wilderness camp. It's gonna be a little crappy. It is what it is, bro. And the thing is, this kid, basically the spoiled kid that, like, that my friend got a bad feeling about, right away off the bat started complaining, bro. They were walking up to the place and he was like, I don't see an air conditioning unit. Where's the air conditioning unit? It's so hot outside. I've never slept without an air conditioning unit. And at first my friend was like, okay, dude, it's like a wilderness camp, but like whatever. I'll be nice to the guy. And he's like, it's okay. The night should be pretty cool. And the guy was like, fine, I guess. So once they get into the cabin, there's a bunch of like bunk beds where there's a top bunk and a bottom bunk, and the kids kind of separate and split up. And so my friend and the spoiled kid, who he didn't really know was the spoiled kid, but we're just going to call him the spoiled kid, they basically went together, or at least my friend walked with them as he wanted to be like a buddy to this guy. Little did he know the mistake he was making. And my friend really wanted top bunk because it's just something he really prefers. So he said, hey, if you don't mind, I'm going to try and take top bunk. But the spoiled kid said, no, I'm taking top bunk. And the thing is, if you really want a top bunk, you could be like, hey man, like, how much do you really want it? Because like, that's my preference. He says, like, it's like, we can totally figure it out. But the kid was like, no, that's my bunk, and jumps up on the top bunk. Like, he climbs all the way up and gets in the bed to prevent my friend from going in. And my friend is like, okay. Sorry to interrupt this video, but if you made it this far, comment door down below. Yes, D-O-O-R, like, something that you enter a building with. I just like to see who makes it this far into the video, but don't always just comment door right away, because I do change it up every once in a while, and most likely next video it won't be door. Anyways, guys, let's get back to the story. So anyways, at dinner that night, they all walk over, and at this point, my friend is like not a super big fan of the spoiled kid, but like he's not totally given up on him yet until dinner time, which he does, right? So they get to dinner, and it's kind of it's the type where like you sit at a table with your group. So Group B is all sitting together. They're also in the same cabin, so they kind of do stuff together, right? And the way that the dinner is served, it is like there's a big bowl of the meal, and then it's like supposed to be passed around, and people can kind of take portions that are, basically the size of what you want. So the meal's getting passed around, and the last two people to receive the meal are my friend and the spoiled kid. So there's about enough for both of them when it gets around to the spoiled kid, and they're the last two to have it. So my friend was kind of just expecting the kid to kind of like take the food, just split it in half, because it was like a decent proportion for like a meal, right? But what the spoiled kid does instead is he scoops the entire thing onto his plate and hands my friend the empty dish. At this point, my friend's like, hey bro, like, can I have some of that? And the kid's like, no, that's unfortunate. Like, you shouldn't have been last. At this point, my friend is starting to get a little bit mad. And like the other people, like the counselor was like not paying attention, but there were some other kids in Group B that were starting to notice this guy's behavior. So this behavior continues throughout the first week. There's a lot of little examples, but I don't want this video to go on way too long, as it could go, as there were a lot of examples. So after the first week, there was a whole nother week these guys were going to have to stay together. And basically, these kids in Group B basically had enough of the spoiled kid. So, but the thing was, this kid never really acted that, spoiled or that bratty when, camp counselors were around, as he definitely would have been, like, reprimanded, right? So their plan was to kind of, like, set it up so that, like, when one of the camp counselors somehow to get him in trouble, right? They wanted the camp counselors to kind of catch him in the action. So basically what their plan was they were going to basically talk to this kid and assume that he would have done something kind of like bratty, as he had been consistently doing. But also, one of them would have gone out and said, hey, camp counselor, can you come in? I want to show you something. It's something I've been working on. And basically they would have some kind of like little project thing to show them, like if the plan didn't work, so it wasn't super obvious. But basically what the conversation they were having, all the kids in Group B and the spoiled kid were having a conversation about the activities they were having that night. So that night they were basically going to cook up some s'mores, and the spoiled kid started going on about saying how he should have half the s'mores because, he deserves it because of like, he's just better than all of them. And he's really going off at this point because he had just been escalating throughout the week to the point where they really just needed like someone to hear this. They just needed one of the counselors to come in and put an end to this, basically. So one of the friends, while the other friends were talking to the spoiled kid, making him kind of go off on a tangent about how he's better than everyone and how he deserves everything, right? The other kid is saying, oh, can you come over here? We want to show you something. And so the counselor is coming over with the other kid, and the other kids are talking to the spoiled kid as well as my friend, right, to get him to keep talking. And then the counselor comes up to the door, and he's starting to hear what the spoiled kid is saying, and then he stops in his tracks to listen to the rest of the conversation. And the spoiled kid basically goes on to say something along the lines of, I deserved the majority of the marshmallows tonight because I am just better than all of you. When the camp counselor hears that, he kind of it clicks and he goes into the room and he's like, what did you just say? And probably the craziest thing is this spoiled kid probably had never been reprimanded in his life, because he goes on to tell the counselor exactly what he told the other guys. Basically that tonight he should have a larger percentage of the marshmallows because he is just better than them and he should be rewarded accordingly. The counselor looks obviously dumbfounded, and all the other guys are just like, oh my god, he completely fell into our trap. Like, we can't believe he actually said that in front of the counselor. Like, we really thought we had to get him to, catch him in the act, but bro, if we asked, he would have said. That's crazy. So basically what ended up happening was the camp counselor, basically told the kid, yeah, you're just not even tonight, you're not even going to the marshmallow event. And then he starts having a meltdown in front of everyone. So basically when the kid is told by the counselor that he can't get any marshmallows tonight because of what he said, he goes on this, he starts screaming, he starts throwing stuff, he starts kicking over things to the point where he actually kicks one of the bunk beds, and for some reason he gets it at just the right angle that he cracks one of the beams. Maybe it wasn't the best thing structurally. He goes in, he bumps stuff around. He bumps over the lamp in one of the corners, and it falls and it hits the window and breaks the window pane. This guy has basically gone around just doing all this damage just because he was told that he can't have any marshmallows after he told the counselor point blank that he should have more because he is just better, because he is better. At this point, the camp counselor is like, come with me. And they take him away. And my friend and his friends were just like, oh my god, we did not expect him to go on a full-on rampage. We just wanted him to be, we just wanted someone to tell him what's up, right? We didn't expect this whole thing to happen, right? So basically, they go on with their day, and they have marshmallows, and the spoiled kid doesn't come back for that. And they go back to bed, and they're waiting for, at the cabin, for when they get back to the cabin to see the spoiled kid there. They don't. They do see the counselor, though. So they say, hey, what ended up happening? And the counselor explains to them that after the whole rampage and all the damage that the spoiled kid caused, they called his parents and explained what happened and demanded that they pick him up that night. Yeah, so basically for the rest of the week, my friend was free of the spoiled kid because he got picked up that night. And honestly, the rest of like his friends in the Group B cabin, he actually became kind of close with because they bonded over how much they disliked this one kid. Moral of the story, don't be a jerk, guys.